My dad brought this from France in World War I.
Oh, wow. Let me get a picture of that. Is that the front of a projectile?
But then a friend of mine, when we were overseas, he had his crew chief go to this wrecked plane and take the top of the joystick off.
So that's the real thing there.
This is the real McCoy for the early Spitfire.
Well, how, so there's a pole that goes down near your feet that comes off the bottom there, and it's a circular joystick then, handle.
Yes.
Oh, I've never seen one.
And that, the story they told us was that the early Spits were so hard to pull out of a dive because the ailerons weren't big enough or something.
Oh, too small an aileron, okay.
So this is the actual gun for firing, and been a while since I looked at this old wreck. But anyway, the top was for machine guns, and the bottom was for the cannon.
Okay.
And in all seriousness, the Americans were told by the British that you use this one first, and you see you're getting strikes, and then your finger slides to the middle for the cannon.
Okay.
And we all looked at each other and we agreed. I don't know any American in our outfit that ever followed that procedure. It was so handy to just open up with everything, you know, like that.
Interesting.
You know.
Well, 20 millimeter is a big round, and the 30, yeah.
That's a
Oh,
20
holy cow, that is a big thing.
That's a
That's
20.
a big thing. And you see, the Spitfire had one in each wing of these, and this little thing comes apart, and there's a lot of room there for powder, and it would be an explosive when it hit. You know?
Oh, yeah.
It wouldn't just punch a hole.
So you can just take those apart? Is that how they put the powder in, or was that something later?
I don't even know.
I suppose
I
they
think
made
it is.
I suppose they had to get the powder in there somehow. They probably just had a screw.
I suppose the crew chiefs got that assignment.
And you were able to get this, a friend of yours recovered this from a destroyed Spitfire?
That was another question. Primarily on this thing.
Yeah.
My friend was taking it back, and he had his crew chief to put it on a stand and like that.
Wow, that is really
This is
nice.
heavy.
And he got to the embarkation place, and they looked at that thing and they wouldn't let it go.
Really? Why?
Well, they knew it was military,
Yeah, they thought it
and
was.
they knew he was going back to the States, and he had no business taking military gear, according to them. And so my friend kept talking, and I knew he was getting a little irate, you know. and finally they weren't getting any place, and then he just said, "Oh, crying out loud, give it to me and I'll take it through." And so the guy meekly shut up then, and so then that buddy of mine brought it home, and in his family he had 2 daughters, and I actually think they weren't proud of their dad being a pilot even. So
He gave it to you.
gave it to me.
Well, I got some questions here about this. So, the I'm gonna just put that in front of the camera. So there's 2 buttons, but if you press the center button, then everything fires?
Yep.
So you got the cannon going and the machine gun.
And
You
machine
get all that firepower.
Oh, yep.
And then there's a button here for, it says camera
Camera,
camera only. So if you just wanted to shoot a picture.
I never had an occasion to do that, because usually we were out of film. But it was a real wonderful thing to have in your plane if you just got a few strikes on the enemy, you know. Why, that was much more proof than.
So the combat gun camera, what, you didn't always have film in it? But
Oh no.
what, did they ever give you film to show what you hit, or?
Well,
I mean, you didn't come home with any combat gun footage, I take it.
no. I just haven't thought about that, but
Well, they probably have it in the photo reconnaissance area, wherever that was, for your unit,
See,
if they did have it.
the brakes on the Spitfire were on the pedals in the cockpit. And if you wanted to make a left turn, you would just push in the left pedal and then squeeze that handle. And nothing would happen except that you'd make a nice turn.
Uh-huh.
So,
Now this other metal thing does something. It's got a spring on it, and it's
yeah, well,
here, I'll just put it in front of the
that's
camera. Here, why don't you
that's
give
the
that back to
brakes.
him? The brakes.
that's the
This is the brakes.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's just been gerrymandered to act like that. But
So when
then-
you're finished with your coming in and landing and you're taxiing or something,
You're
you can use
taxiing,
that. Yeah.
And of course, I never had a bit of film in my plane ever. So this one says camera only. Well, of course, you could, if you had 2 planes mock air fighting, why then they could take pictures of each other and see who won.
You can think that fast.
But
Well, I did interview somebody who had 3 reels of combat gun footage, and he went to get it digitized and transferred after 60-some years, almost 70 years, and the person, it was just a big lump at that point, said it was so dangerous he could have burned his house down, because, you know, it was very flammable, those after period of time. But he did get 1 reel out of it. But it was fairly rare, I guess, to actually have somebody hand you the combat gun footage if it was taken at all. Usually they kept that,
well,
I guess.
we heard. Well, then we heard that all the thing that was going on in the Air Force was they were all. There was a new guy out in Hollywood. Very famous man. Anyway,
Jimmy Stewart.
he was the first guy that came up with the talking comedies and stuff like that. And in this World War II, he volunteered to design different things for each unit, you know.
Oh, okay.
Well, of course, the bomber boys got a hold of that long before we did, and they just monopolized.
So if your unit was going to get a nice logo or something,
No.
you were out of luck. They had already, the 8th Air Force had grabbed the illustrators? So did you, let's see, I think I wrote down in my notes, you were assigned to, which fighter group? I've got it here somewhere.
31st
Fighter Group,
Fighter Group,
308th Fighter Squadron.
right.
And then, so did you have any combat or were you just training in North Africa? I mean, did you have targets or missions?
In North Africa, just training.
And
But we shortly moved from North Africa to go to Sicily. And of course, we didn't know anything about the geography or anything, but when we were waiting to go to Sicily, we were down at the beach, and there was miles and miles of the most beautiful beach I've ever seen, and beautiful sand, and nobody swimming. Just absolutely.
well, you had gone over on a ship then with the planes
Yeah.
to get to the
Yeah.
the beaches.
Yeah, we got on the ship, and like I said, I made some reference to the nylons that some boys had bought because they thought they were going to England. And when they found out they were going to Africa, then those nylons were floating across the ocean.
How'd you think, honey?
Well, let's see. So you're in Sicily. They've invaded Sicily, and you're flying missions in a Spitfire.
Yeah.
And what kind of missions were you flying?
Boy, that's a tough one.
I mean, did you do reconnaissance or ground support or interact
No,
with
it
German
was-
planes or?
It was strictly against the Hun. And we'd fly many missions with no activity at all. And then all of a sudden, seemed like all hell would break loose.
And you were fired upon by a Navy ship? Was it?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Oh boy.
Were they a little trigger happy, or they couldn't identify a Spitfire from a German Messerschmitt or something?
Well, I tell you, the Navy at that time, they really ruled supreme, And I don't think they had any identification of aircraft.
Yeah,
So if a plane got too close, they'd open up.
yeah.
And that happened to my friend Rocky, who Rocky had kind of a hot temper a lot of times, and by golly, he was defending I think it was the SS Philadelphia, big cruiser, and he had his little flight of four a little bit too close, and they opened up on him. Oh, he was one irate pilot, but he got out of there real quick.
So he was trying to defend them, and they were shooting at him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, aircraft identification isn't easy unless you're trained with it, and as I understand, the Navy actually shot down a lot of our glider planes as they were coming in Sicily, and it was a terrible loss of life.
Oh yeah, that Sicilian thing.
Yeah.
Oh, that was the bad news for days.
We had lost a lot of people with that. So you had run into this problem in your squadron as well. With the, did you? Go ahead.
We ran into General Patton in Sicily, and that was an experience. We were at the first base in Sicily, bombed out hangar. A lot of walking wounded laying in there waiting for transfer back to the mainland. And I'm walking along that area and I'm looking at all these guys and it's hot. And they're half stripped. And here comes this command car overtaking me with the stars on the fender. I automatically froze into the position, you know. And
You mean you're at attention saluting?
Yep.
Okay.
and he didn't pay any attention to me. And that poor driver was trained on that vehicle, you know. He could stop on a dime, it seemed like. And when Patton wanted out, he just nudged that guy, and he must have had super brakes on it because he'd stop on a dime. And out he came, and I'm standing at one end of the hangar, standing at attention, and he walked right by me. And I couldn't believe it, but I'd heard that he had his riding crop, you know, from his cavalry days. He did. And he had regular guns on his hips, too.
Those ivory
Yeah.
revolvers?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so he went in there and started giving those wounded warriors hail for the Dickens for not wearing their full uniform. And it all kind of tied in with another story about Patton, that he actually slapped one soldier.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this incident of mine was probably right at the same time. But he went up and down those rules. All those guys were laying on the stretchers, you know. And he was just going through every cuss word in the world. And then finally he stopped, and through the corner of my eye I saw the command car start to move, and he's still on the ground. And then when all these guys had their shirts back on, he said, "Now you look like a group of soldiers that I'm proud to have. Good luck to you, and goodbye." And he saluted, and I'll swear to this day that driver was trained so that Patton's hind end hit the seat just at the same time as he hit it 30 miles an hour.
So this is a well choreographed incident there, huh? And the driver knew all of the things Patton was expecting, huh?
But he was reprimanded then sometime later for slapping that one soldier. And that all worked out real good, because then they kind of made it public that he was being returned to off duty. Yup, he was. He went to England and started getting ready for the invasion of the continent. And I'm sure his work there was so above standards, you know, that he had a lot of faults, but he was a heck of a general too.
What was your impression at the time watching this? Were you just kind of scared you were going to get in trouble, or?
Well, we knew that from talk that he was eccentric, you know, and all that. but we stayed out of his way. It was the best way to handle him.
Did you run into any German planes in Sicily during that campaign?
Sicily. Yeah, the answer is yes, but I can't remember. We all thought that the German planes were excellent, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And we were thankful we were in the plane we were in.
Were you facing like ME 109s and Focke-Wulf 110s and the real fighters?
And yeah, my one victory was a rather long affair because he was flying I don't know if the word Stuka was right or not, but he was flying a German dive bomber, single engine, you know, single pilot.
Mm-hmm.
And he and I kind of spun off together from this operation. And God, I thought that, you know, he'd be able to that I did him real easy because I was so maneuverable. He flew that doggone German plane like it was a part of him, you know. And we went round and round until we ran out of land, high air. And then he was my choice. So I got him, but.
So you had a better turning ratio, or whatever you would call that, ability to maneuver slightly better with that Spitfire.
Yeah.
And then as you're circling, you're both losing altitude. And then once he couldn't go any further down, then you basically could line the guns up on him. And did you get sick in Sicily? Did you get a bout of malaria? Was that in Sicily or?
Marge says it did.
Well, I think so, honey.
Well, I've never had malaria, but it sure sounds miserable with the getting chills and you get fever.
Yeah.
That was a big problem in the Pacific, but I didn't realize that people in Sicily got malaria.
I guess Army chow is about the same all over the world.
Well, after Sicily was secured, then the next place that the Army went to was Italy. So did you actually physically move the bases from Sicily and go
sure.
with the Army?
Oh yeah, we I can't remember. There was a series of landing strips that we made available for ourselves, and of course, then when we got to Italy proper, the appalling filth, and not just because they're Italians, but they had been living for years under Mussolini.
Mm-hmm.
And that skunk apparently had his favorites, both in the military and in the private life. And, oh, we took a Jeep, we were stationed right outside of this town in Italy. And we took a Jeep in, and I saw my army troops going through the local neighborhood, and the Italian women, I suppose they still have long flowing dresses, you know, for modesty or something. And here's these American GIs. One of them is holding up the dress, and the other one is pumping DDT into. I just wonder what the after effects of that treatment was.
They were getting rid of all the insects and lice and who knows what.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow. Well, was Italy pretty well, you know, war ravaged at the time that you got there then? Because they had
Oh yeah,
been through...
It had a lot of damage. And
Now, did you changed air forces, I guess, between the 12th, which was more the North African campaigns, and then the 15th Air Force was based in Italy. There's a lot of people in our group that we go to that are 15th Air Force Italy veterans. And did you name your Spitfire or have any nose art or anything like that?
did I have what?
Any? Did you name your plane or
Oh,
have
yeah.
any nose art or on the airplane?
Oh yeah, it was the flying Viking, and of course I had to make a little PS right away that this was 20 years before there was a Viking football team.
Well, you were a good Minnesotan then.
Yep.
What is Rodmyre? What is that? Is that a Norwegian or something? Or?
It's Norwegian.
Oh, okay.
And if you were Norwegian, you'd pronounce it Rodmyre.
Rodmyre. Okay. And what does it mean? Red something?
Yeah. God, I haven't even thought of it.
When we were over there, they called it red clay, remember?
Red
Soil,
clay.
Dirt. Mirror is dirt.
Yeah.
The word mirror
Okay.
is dirt.
Well, I know a man named Sandiger, and he says it means sandy acres, so they name people
Okay.
after their soil types or
Yeah.
something in Scandinavia.
That's kind of like a farmer.
Yeah, I guess that's a farm thing, isn't it?
Right.
So in Italy, then, did you follow the troops, or how did it work? Were you doing like ground support or fighter interaction with bombers, or?
Well, we would, if we had a bombing mission, then there would be a downgrade of the bombers because the big guys would have such range, you know, that we couldn't stay with them.
Yeah.
But the middle-sized ones, the B-25s and those, we escorted them. And
So the medium bombers, you could use a Spitfire because the range was the problem with the Spitfire. You couldn't get as far.
yeah.
Did that ever change? Did you get a different airplane?
Yes, well, we all loved the Spitfires so much that when our commanding general called us together, and he had already given the order that our Spitfires were going to be transferred. And in fact, he was out on this field where our beloved Spitfires were all parked in a row. And he says, he told us his name, and then he says, "You're not going to fly the Spitfire anymore." And this is God's truth. I saw some of those pilots start to cry.
They
Because
loved it.
we loved our plane that much. But he hastened and said, like, I know, you've got this wonderful plane, but take it from me, you're going to like this plane even more than the Spitfire. We just looked at him like he was talking baloney, you know. But he was. Yeah, that was our introduction to the best fighter that we had in World War II.
So, did you enjoy the Mustang as a
Oh,
flying
yeah. Oh yeah.
aircraft?
That was some aircraft. Yeah.
Thing. Did you go on any of those missions that went over the Alps?
I was leaving the squadron about that time, and some of my friends were designated to stay on with the new plane, and I flew it a little bit. We taxied in, and we parked them, line abreast.
Mm-hmm.
And Les parked first and I parked next. And I was in the right place, but the engine stopped.
Wow, that's close.
That was close.
If you'd been in the air, you would have had a real problem. So, your total of missions was 130, is that right?
I can't even remember, but if
In the
you've got that
documents,
up,
yeah.
I'll say it's right.
Well, that's a lot of flying. And then you went home, and this was before the war ended. Was there any chance you would have been sent over to the Pacific or something, or what did you do when you got back?
Well, that was kind of the word, that we were going home, but for some relief, and then we'd be going to the Pacific, but they didn't know about the overall plans called a master bomb.
Yeah. Nobody knew about the atomic bomb until it went off.
Nobody knew it. Boy, that was, the B-29s were flying, and those islands of Japan were just nothing but fire.
Well, you think the atomic bomb probably shortened the war?
Oh, I'm sure it did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you were a trainer at some point with some of the Thunderbolts, the P-47s. Did you train some of the new guys?
Yeah, well, I was an instructor of the new pilots on the Thunderbolt.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a pretty good plane.
Mm-hmm.
And then we got the word about this master bomb and that the war was over. And I had my two favorite students, and I call them my favorites because they were so darn good. They had had enough training in every station, so that they were experts with a capital X. And these two guys come up to me, and they called me sir, What are we going to do now? And I says, well, we'll just load up and go home, I guess. There were tears rolling down their cheeks because they were so anxious to fly a plane in combat. Boy, you talk about spirit, that was spirit.
They had high morale.
Yeah.
What did you do after the war?
Well, I went to the university, and I got acquainted with the up-and-coming company. I was working, not for them, but for this local firm. And this up-and-coming company had a rather funny name of Whirlpool. And oh, that was just a new life for us. Because our old life in the country or city or wherever you were, it was just not the way they did it. They called us all together, and I've written it someplace that they started using these words that we'd never heard, like pay for performance and job descriptions.
They didn't use words like that on the farm, I take it.
No. But it was a very happy transfer, and they're still good to me. So
You had a long career with Whirlpool, and that's local.
yeah.
My dad had a lot of connections with Whirlpool as
did
a
he?
supplier, yeah. So, did you meet your wife before the end of the war? After the war?
When he was at the U.
Oh, okay, so then you married, got a career, had kids, and
Yep.
then eventually retired, and
Here we are today.
and you have grandchildren?
Oh yeah.
9 grandchildren, 16 great-grandchildren.
Wow, that's a big family.
That keeps you busy.
Yes.
Well, I want to thank you for giving us opportunity to ask you some questions.
Sure.
And what I'll be doing is I'll make a copy of these things, and I'll try and get you a number of copies. I don't know if I'll have as many for all those
Oh, no.
great-grandchildren, but I'll make you a bunch of copies so that your
He
family
just
has
want-
some.
He just wanted to have you see it. He still
Oh,
has-
yes,
he
I'd
has
love
the
to
one-
see
The
that.
one relic that.
Oh, yeah, here, let's put that in front of the camera, and now maybe you can explain.
Stand up, Rod.
Was this the one that you flew
This was
in?
his one jacket, yeah. This is the,
Ah.
I don't think he can put it on.
And this logo, was that
that was-
handmade then? You
Yeah.
didn't get the Disney people to
Oh no,
manufacture?
You're a friend.
we had one of our pilots in my squadron
Yeah.
It was Les.
designed it
Oh.
Isn't this
because-
Les, right? Isn't this
because
Les?
the Disney people wouldn't listen to any fighter group at all.
Oh, they wanted the 8th Air Force bomber guys, is that?
So this is
What is that? Is that a
this
cat?
is a snarling cat
Uh-huh.
Cock.
and a royal crown,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a so-called, oh, there's a star for the
Oh,
United
sure,
States in the background, and that's a fellow pilot designed that whole thing.
Les
And
Schultz. Les Schultz.
No,
No, he didn't design it. Oh, I thought he designed it. Was a friend of his?
Well, it's a nice design. And then how do they make it looks like it's felt or something.
Yeah, it is. It's his patches. It's just a plain cotton patch, actually. but-
Oh, okay. Wow. Well, that's
Yeah.
neat that you've kept that.
Yeah, it shows it's been worn.
Yeah. No, that's the real
Yeah.
old, that's an A2 jacket, I think, isn't it?
yeah.
Yeah.
Is there
Wait.
anything on the back of the
No,
jacket?
there wasn't. Just plain
We were at some
display.
celebration over at St. Paul at the grounds, and I was wearing it
Yeah.
That was that,
long after the war.
yeah, that special day that they had for Minnesota when they honored the people at the Capitol grounds.
Oh, okay.
Remember that day?
Yeah,
Yes, I
yeah.
remember that day.
Yeah.
World War II veterans.
World War, whatever
Yeah,
it was
that was
called.
like last year or 2 years ago. Or
That's several years ago. 'Cause
But then
Congress-
there was two young guys that fell in step with me. And one of them said, "Sir, we're gonna protect you back to your car." And I said, "Yeah? How come?" He says, "You don't know what that jacket is worth."
Okay. So that made you a little nervous of it.
No, it just made us laugh.
So that was kind of a funny ending. So,
Well, that's
Yeah,
great.
You're right though about one thing, it does show a little wear.
Well, yeah, that looks like the real thing.
It's been hanging for, like, last time you put it on though, he and a buddy, that was when your buddy Bob was back in Minnesota, that's the last time you put it on, I think. They're all dead now, by the way, you know.
Oh, really? All the
yes,
people-
Yes, this is Survivor,
All those friends you made during the Second World War,
They're
you're
all
gone in
gone.
your squadron?
Yeah.
That you know?
I was what?
Did you, the people that you knew have all passed away
yes,
that you
Yes.
served with?
yes. They're all gone, Rod, you know
I
that.
think they're all gone.
Did you ever have reunions or anything, years ago, where you'd get together?
Not really.
Not specifically. We piecemeal, Rocky would come and Les, of course, Les Schultz was in California, he came and saw us several times. And Rocky, of course, ended up in Seattle, we saw him. many
Oh,
times.
so you kept in touch with some
Oh,
of the
yeah,
guys?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you for bringing that out. That's
that's great.
really neat.
Anyway,
Did you get a picture with
Yeah,
the?
I got it.
Oh, good.
yeah,
I
I
can't
got
even
it.
think of, yeah, isn't that terrible, Bob? I can't even think of his last name, and they also, Lois and Bob Terry.
Uh-huh.
That's the last time you put this jacket on, when Bob Terry came and you two stood. You got that picture someplace, I don't know where that is.
Well, if you want to put it on and wear it, we could guard you, walk behind you a couple of steps if you want to go somewhere.
I don't think it's quite that bad, but it's just about as scary. So,
It's a museum
Well,
piece.
thank you so much, and
Well, thank you.
we
very
appreciate
much.
the opportunity to talk to you. Well, this is kind of a postscript because we didn't think to ask you this, but you said you met some of the Tuskegee Airmen when they just went through one of the fighter bases, and you had an positive
Well,
impression
I
of the.
think they were. I think they were on our ship.
Oh, okay,
Going overseas,
yeah.
and I think that was because we had heard that there was going to be a black group. And of course, there were some guys that thought that it's going to hell in a basket, but
There's a lot of prejudice at that time against
then
blacks.
We heard about their training and their top commander. And
So they had a good
just-
reputation.
Oh, perfect, yeah.
Yeah.